Now, I'm sure we've all seen the classic horror comedy House from 1985, but I'm not sure if everyone out there is aware of just how closely it's related to not only Friday the 13th, but also the Monster Squad, and of course Night of the Creeps. So the premise of House is, of course, that the aunt of horror author Roger Cobb and the owner of the titular house has, we'll just say that she's deleted herself to stay within YouTube guidelines, probably at the behest of the ghosts and demons that occupy this particular haunted residence. At least that's what's alluded to throughout the movie, that people are encouraged within the house to self-delete, as it were. So horror author Roger Cobb, well, he's played by William Katt, aka the greatest American hero, not to be confused with Scott Baio's mate Willie Ames from Zapped. I always confuse the two myself. And Roger's son's also inexplicably gone missing from the grounds of the house in a very creepy, very disturbing scene involving a swimming pool out the back. So after the death of his aunt, he decides that her house might be the perfect place to exercise all of his Vietnam War demons as he tries to finish an autobiography, a memoir of sorts about the war, that none of his horror fans really asked for. So not the best or most commercial decision, but it is what it is. But the frustrating thing for Roger is that nobody in the neighbourhood, from his slob neighbour John Goodman to some random lady who's obsessed with using him for his pool and free childminding, to his ex-wife, or the local cops, or even the resident ghosts or demons, are going to let him enjoy a moment's peace to finish his book and exercise all of his own personal demons regarding Vietnam and also his son going missing. Which is pretty much at its heart what House is all about. It's about a guy who just wants to be left alone in peace and nobody will leave him alone. That's the real horror of the movie in a nutshell. And another interesting fact about this one are the connections to the Monster Squad, Night of the Creeps, and Friday the 13th. So the screenplay for House was written by none other than Fred Dekker, who of course wrote and directed The Monster Squad and Night of the Creeps. And the soundtrack's composed by Harry Manfredini, I believe, of Friday the 13th fame. And it really does give those creepy Friday the 13th vibes. And it's just as memorable. And I actually probably prefer this soundtrack to Friday the 13th. It edges it out just slightly. And then, of course, we have director Steve Miner, who directed Friday the 13th Parts 1 and 2. And not to mention the producer of this one is Sean S. Cunningham, who, as you're probably aware, not only produced House, but all of those early Friday the 13th movies that we all love so much. So really, you could say that House from 1985 is kind of a blood relative of the Friday the 13th franchise and of Night of the Creeps and the Monster Squad. It does share some similarities to all of those movies. And House in and of itself is a pretty remarkable movie as well. It effortlessly intertwines those horror and comedy elements. And as we all know, most movies fail miserably when they try to pivot between a genuinely creepy vibe and out-and-out comic relief. There's only a few that have successfully done it. The ones that spring to mind are Return of the Living Dead and Evil Dead 1 and 2. And along with this one, those are a few of the only examples that I can really think of that really spring to mind right now. Maybe you have a few other examples of successful horror comedies that you can share in the comments. So, as I said, at its heart, House is a movie about an author who's just looking for a bit of peace, looking to be left alone, looking for some me time, for some quiet time, and I think we've all been there. And in between the intrusive neighbours, the nosy cops, the ex-wives, the inner demons, and the literal demons, it just isn't happening for poor old Roger Cobb. So, as with all the best haunted house movies, all the best ghost movies, the real terror tends to be from something other than the malevolent demons of the movie or ghosts of the movie. The Amityville Horror is another one that springs to mind. At the end of the day, the Amityville Horror, at least the original one, is basically a a money pit horror movie, a story about someone who's overfinanced or a family that's overfinanced to the gills in a purchase of a money pit of a house that needs a lot of work. And most of the true horrors of the Amityville Horror are about financial horrors, like losing the $10,000 that the wedding caterer wanted or needed, and so on and so forth. So I always think that the best haunted house movies, the best ghost movies, aren't so much about the ghosts or the supernatural elements themselves, but about the metaphors for other horrors in the lives of the protagonists of the movie. And House is no different in that regard. So this one's one of the classic movies of the 80s, one of the classic horror movies of the 80s. Came to us from 1985. One of the most memorable posters or VHS covers of the 80s, to say the least. The Ding Dong You're Dead advertising was incredibly successful. They did try to follow up House, of course, turning it into a franchise, as Hollywood always does, and their hearts were in the right place. They basically tried to make it like a haunted house anthology series, so a different location each time, a different haunted house each time, different characters, different scenarios, and kind of keeping that theme where someone opens a door and you're never quite sure if the audience is going to laugh or scream, and their hearts were in the right place. The results were somewhat mixed, I guess you'd say, and I'll probably look into a few of those other house movies down the track somewhere. But in and of itself, House is highly recommended if you have been sleeping under a rock and haven't experienced it yet. It is, as I say, very creepy, also very funny. The horror and comedy elements really do effortlessly overlap, and some very memorable scenes. I guess the most memorable scene probably involves a zombified version of someone that that Roger is quite close to, not to spoil things too badly. And there are a number of remarkable and creepy sequences in this movie, very atmospheric, and it's up there with the best of of what the haunted house or the ghost or the paranormal horror genre has to offer. So I think that's about all I have on House for today. Definitely one worth revisiting if you haven't seen it in a while, and you'll probably, especially if you're an older person that values me time, quiet time, being left alone, I think you'll really find those hidden subtexts about the real subtext of House, which is a guy just wanting to be left alone and finish his book, quite interesting. And it is quite original in the annals of 80s horror. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you'll like, share and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts on House as well. I'll try and find a link to where you can see House in the description if I can. Otherwise, I'll just pop the trailer in there. And as always, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'm off to enjoy the rest of my day. And until next time, take it easy.